At the Julian Way, we empower individuals with disabilities to thrive in faith communities by breaking barriers and fostering belonging. Your support helps us create accessible spaces where everyone feels valued and seen. Join us in making a difference today at www.thejulianway.org. Together, we can build communities of belonging.
Good morning, friends, and welcome to another episode of Palsies with Palsies. I am your palsy, Justin Hancock.
And I'm your palsy, Rebekah and Anderson. Hey, Justin.
Hello, Becca. How are we doing today?
We are doing okay. It is, I don't know if it's yet 80 degrees today, but it's going to be. And I would like everyone to know it was snowing in this same part of Massachusetts last week. So climate change is a thing, and I'm living it.
Welcome to the springtime.
I mean, if it weren't quite so weird, it is also kind of delightful. I get to have my windows open and my porch door open, and Jazzy gets to try to climb the screen on the porch and terrify me that she's going to escape out into the park. And we're both trying to live our best lives.
So in this situation, Becca, this is, by the way, not the topic of the show, still banned folks, no worries. Those of you that haven't switched off yet, as we discussed Eastern Seaboard weather, in that situation, do you just not put any of your clothes up because you might need your heavy coat one week and then your sun hat the next week, or what's the protocol for this?
Yep, nope. This is the season where all of the clothes need to be out and available. You've got your specific seasonal transition clothes of light long sleeved things for those 50 or 60 degree days. At some point it'll just transition into being 80 all the time, and then we can put away the winter coat.
Yeah, my favorite version of this, which I saw in some footage of cold, sudden and surprising cold weather snaps several years ago, out of New York, is the heavy coat with the flip-flops. I don't know if I'm coming or going, but I'm prepared for both.
That would be an odd look for me, but in New England, it's a mood. It's very much a mood.
Yes, it is a vibe indeed.
Mm-hmm.
Well, I'm glad you're enjoying some spring weather and the windows open. I've gotten to work in my living room and at my kitchen table most of the week because my wife, who normally offices there, is out of town, and enjoying the big sun window it's been delightful. So I really like the weather right now, although I made plans for my mom to take me to the doctor yesterday because we thought it was going to rain, and then it didn't end up raining. And I know if I had taken the bus and train to the doctor, it would have rained. Just absolutely rain buckets. So,
Yep, that's how that goes.
God being clever, I suppose, which I can get behind. I respect it.
Of things for, God to tweak in the universe to amuse themselves, that's all right. It can be a little inconvenienced by, it would have rained if you'd been on the bus, and it wouldn't have rained, and now it didn't rain because you had access to a car.
Yeah, I mean, and now for something completely different, to smooth transition to the topic of the show.
Yep.
So we either don't want God to tweak with or would really like God to tweak. I haven't really decided, but we're talking about disability justice, and as it relates to really, we began framing this as a discussion of the Iran war.
Mm-hmm.
I've read and seen enough in the last 2 days to know how interconnected this is to particularly the Palestinian uh, genocide situation and
Yeah.
the Hezbollah and Israel situation. So there are a number of conflicts that are really connected and revolving and enmeshed. So we thought it was a good time to discuss how peace advocacy is really a fundamental part of disability advocacy. So that's why we're going to spend a lot of our time today. My hope is that it maybe is a shorter show because we're not going to get deep into the weeds of the geopolitical situation because there's enough of that out there right now. And some of it's very, very good, and some of it's not as well thought through. But we want to take a disability look at some things related to this.
Yeah, and just kind of minor content warning for folks, like this is going to include generalized descriptions of the consequences of war. I don't think we have too many specific examples to share, and so we're not going to get into any kind of graphic detail. But we're not going to shy away from how awful war is. And so if that's something that's not going to be good for your body, mind, and spirit today, totally understandable. We'll see you another time, but we hope that everyone who can will stick with us, because this is an important topic, and one that we could have done basically at any time in the existence of Palsies with Palsies, because there's always war going on somewhere on Earth, unfortunately. And I've been thinking about this topic particularly since the genocide in Gaza began. But now that the U.S. is at war specifically and directly, it feels like it takes on a new sense of coming to home. That this isn't just something that's happening in the world, being done by other people. It's not just something that our country is tacitly or explicitly supporting. It's something that our country is doing, and so that feels particularly important to talk about it now.
And I think it's important to first provide some of the framing mechanisms through which we will enter the discussion. And the first one is really a framing mechanism that you're gonna, and I think you're gonna refer to the book out from which it comes. It's a framing mechanism I heard for the first time consistently and substantially in the disability discourse after you and I started working together. I don't know if you were the one who directly brought it to my attention, but it has been more prevalent in the last 4 to 5 years. Can you talk about the concept of war as a mass disabling event? Is the framing that we're going to enter into.
Yeah, so this is a topic and a concept that I learned about from the book The Right to Maim by Jasbir Puar. And her conversation on this is complex and detailed in many important ways that I'm not going to capture all of here. But basically, it's kind of pushing back on and things that we've talked about before. That some aspects of disability activism will name disability as just it is inherently good or inherently neutral, and no matter how you came by your disability, it's all we all can be happy and love our embodiment now, and all of that is still true. And also, we need to reckon with the fact that some bodies become disabled through war and violence, and that is not accidental, and is not separate from conversations about power and empire, and that's where the title of Puar's book comes from. The Right to Maim is basically saying that when a powerful country, a world power, is at war with another country, or even just any sort of occupying force is in conflict with another force, the ability to exact violence on bodies in ways that doesn't just kill people but disables people is part of what the practice of war is. It's part of the point. And so, yeah, any war is going to be a mass disabling event. You're going to have people who sustain injuries in bombings or in conflict. You're going to have people who have been specifically harmed and maimed as an act of terrorism. You're going to have lots of people with PTSD on all sides of the conflict. And this is just something that as a disability community, we can't ignore, because, we can and should welcome everyone into disability community, no matter where their disabilities came from. But I think we also need to hold a special and particular place to say some people's disabilities came through violence and injustice. And that's something that, we can't just, shrug and say, like, well, disability just happens. Disability happens more to some bodies than to others.
Yeah. A lot of the rhetoric that I'm hearing now is, excuse me, as I come closer to my microphone, so it gets really loud for a minute. I apologize. Is something in the neighborhood of, yes, there will be some casualties, but it will be worth it if Iran doesn't get a nuclear weapon, which is a great way of, in this very specific context of kind of blurring the line and obscuring those people as people.
Yeah.
To use the word casualties instead of people. And I really, I don't think one of the risk of the way that we manage conflict right now is that we lose the ability to see the human as a human.
Yeah.
There's actually one of the best descriptions I've ever heard of this is from a comedian who does a bit on, he talks about geopolitics a lot, but he says you know, uh, we're we can diagnose crime past a certain point, but you know, when when you get high enough, it's almost like when you're looking at somebody like Saddam Hussein or Pol Pot or anybody like that. We're almost like, you killed 100,000 people. Well
Hmm.
done. I can't even get out to the gym because we just can't even conceive of a number that high. Like, it almost
Yeah.
breaks us to go uh, beyond a certain point. And he's playing it for laughs, and in a way, the way he sets up, I'm not doing it justice, but the way he sets up the bit, it is funny, but it's true.
Hmm.
We lose the ability um, to really comprehend about the human life past a certain point, and that's where we are. That used to be a real remarkable thing. Like when we think about Cambodia or the Cultural Revolution or the Holocaust, those used to be remarkable things.
Hmm.
We can now do that on a Tuesday,
Yeah.
which when you talk about a mass disabling event, um, really brings it into stark relief about how disability and global conflict are connected deeply.
Hmm. Yeah. No, and another, aspect of that connection is, as I said, like not all bodies are going to be equally affected by conflict, right? That uh, people living in countries with less political power, less military power, are much more vulnerable, and even within those countries, people in poverty are going to be more vulnerable because they will have fewer resources to
Mhm.
escape the conflict. And people with disabilities are going to be more vulnerable because many of them have less physical ability to escape the conflict.
Yeah.
And many folks, rely on infrastructure that is also destroyed by war. If people need oxygen or need climate controls or other medical devices, you know, even if their bodies are not harmed by conflict, if power is lost, some of those people die. Like that's or become more disabled than they were, or what have you. Like war and violence are going to not only going to be mass disabling events, but also are going to disproportionately affect disabled people just as they disproportionately affect anyone who's vulnerable.
Yeah, that was brought to me in rather stark. Uh, I think I may have been doing something as simple as brushing my teeth several months ago and listening to the news about the situation in Gaza. And for those of you who may not know, I think if you listen to the show, you probably have some idea of what Gaza means. But
Mm-hmm.
I don't think we understand how small an area relatively that we are discussing.
Yeah.
Uh, so when people started to say, yes, we want to move, but where do we move? Everywhere we want to move is either going to be bombed or having already been bombed. So
Mm-hmm.
those are people we can like generally assume that those are people with two arms, two legs that work reasonably well, that are like, we can't move.
Yeah.
And if they can't move, you know, you know, compound that with any pre-existing medical or disabling condition.
Yeah, exactly. So, yeah, basically this is just something to raise to say, like, I think we as a disability community uh, have a particular call to be advocates for peace. Like, you there are always going to be arguments to be made about why war is necessary, and there are always going to be concerns of safety and of protecting our people. And I think what the insights of disability justice for me are to say everyone is our people, the community of the world, and especially anyone who is vulnerable and marginalized. And that is going to include the vast majority of places where war and this kind of intense violence happen. It's going to include the disabled people in those places. It's going to include the people who are going to be disabled if that violence and war continue. And so, I feel, and I have for a long, long time, but particularly called to say the disability community, like, this is our issue too. This is something that needs to matter to us as citizens of the world, but also as disabled people, to be able to go to our leaders and say, like, you need to prioritize peace. You need to prioritize everyone making it through this as unscathed as we can.
Exactly. And I think what's interesting for me is when I was in graduate school and first got to experience reading theologians and really realized, boy, that's harder to say than I thought, begun to understand that I loved reading theology. One of the first persons I ran into was Reinhold and Richard Niebuhr. So I really began my journey as a pretty big fan of particularly Richard Niebuhr and the just war kind of leanings thereof. But and for me, as I've gained my disability consciousness and done this work as a career and a calling and a vocation for the last decade and a half, it's really not about the merit of the arguments over just war theory or pacifism. Like, not that those don't matter. There are validities that there is validity to having that conversation, and there is even some validity, as you said. There are always going to be arguments over conflict, and some conflicts that adhere closer to justice than others. But I think, as I said in the beginning, because of what weapons can now do and the scale of the harm they can now inflict, it's almost like the arguments don't matter to me anymore. I'm a pacifist because, as a disabled activist, I have no other choice. Like, this is my only, for me, I'm not asking others to have that stance, but for me, I have no other option when faced with the reality of what the world is able to do to itself than to be a peace activist.
Yeah, and I think that facing the reality of it feels really important to me. That I also am very much in the pacifist camp, but I also acknowledge I do not have the responsibility of protecting a country. Like, I am not and never will be, God willing, in a position to decide personally and directly whether a country goes to war or not. And so I do understand that, there are lots of considerations, and there, I think especially like when we're talking about defense, the conversation gets different, as opposed to attack or retaliation. But whatever side you come down on, wherever, whether if you're gonna argue that a war is necessary, reckon with the consequences. Be willing and able to acknowledge what kind of loss and devastation and harm is going to be done. We just, and I think that has always been true throughout the history of war, that
Yeah.
those consequences have been there. But yeah, with how weapons work now, those are just on a completely different scale than they have ever been. And I do not think that it is responsible or just to commit to using those kinds of weapons without being able to be really honest about what the consequences are going to be for actual real people.
Yeah. I'm curious, and I'm feeling the tug to like our setting out of our ideas, our giving of our reasons is phase one, and then we go to how do we do this, and sort of how to is phase
Mm-hmm.
two of the episode. And not only is that clumsy, I don't think it really serves that much of a purpose. Uh, or it might make it might reduce the conflict, uh, or the conversation down too much in my mind. So
Mm-hmm.
I guess what I would ask and what I'm inviting our listeners to contemplate is there's been so much chatter around, particularly Pope Leo and the conversation, using the loosest possible framework for the word conversation, but
Mm-hmm.
him and the current administration, that I'm just the connection between disability activism and peace activism makes all the sense in the world to me,
Mm-hmm.
theoretically, and even boots on the ground, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm wondering, what do we do with it? Like, not so much how to, but like, where do we go next so that we can like evolve and do this in a way that really matters? What are your thoughts on that? Because I got to be honest, I really don't know at this point.
I mean, I would say if war has not already been something that's kind of on your list of issues that you advocate for, things that you show up at protests for, things that you write or call your elected officials about, I would say we gotta add it. Like, and to, when we're doing our advocacy, to tell this story, to say I am advocating for peace because I am a part of the disability community. I am a disability justice advocate, and these things are connected. And when you're in conversations with people that don't feel that way, having this conversation with them, making that case. And I also I think about ways that we can be in solidarity with people in Iran and Gaza and Lebanon. Are there ways that we can support disabled folks, whether newly disabled or longtime disabled, in getting the things that they need to survive, the things that they need to leave, and those ways are not always obvious. Like it is very hard. I think still, I don't. Things may have changed in the past few months, but I know for a very long time it was very hard to get any sort of aid into Gaza, not just food that was specifically being blocked, but also financially as well.
Yeah.
And and that's also going to be true of Iran. I think, given that the communications are pretty well locked down, but if any connections that you do have, or that you can find, finding ways to be in solidarity with the real living people in those places.
Yeah. And thank you for that, because that really, hearing that verbalized, cued a couple of things for me. And I would add that even if you're not the kind of person that's gonna like protest one way or the other around a certain issue, I hope what this conversation around disability and war and violence has done today, and will continue to do, is really help us all wake up and emerge to something that's been beginning to be talked about as we all feel the squeeze, but not talked about enough in enough context. I don't believe that we are all in a global connected society.
Mm-hmm.
That when I mean, we see it most clearly right now in gas prices.
Yeah.
Like, saying, well, we don't need the oil because we're energy independent. Yeah, but we're in a global economy, so
Yep.
other countries hurt. Guess who also hurts? We do. And if we've talked a lot about the people in Iran who are dealing with the literal consequences of missiles and bombs and violence and bullets, and trying to live in that world in the best of circumstances, let alone with disabilities. But guess what gets a lot harder when every price in the grocery store goes up? Living with a disability.
Yep.
And we're going to feel that way for a long time. And we haven't even touched trying to run a disability-based nonprofit. This time, we depend for over half our funding on small-scale personal donations. And I don't want to put out a fundraising call right now. I want people to be able to heat their homes or build their cars or feed their families.
Yeah.
But it all trickles down, and when things trickle, it tends to land on the poorest and the most disabled. And we're right there right now, even if we're not in the conflict zones.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's so important to point out, because I think even for those of us who have lots of empathy and compassion, it can be really hard to empathize with people, on the other side of the world who you've never met and can't fully imagine. Like we can describe these horrors of war, but we're not living them here in the United States. But we really can see the consequences for ourselves. Like we can see how deeply interconnected we all are. And, I hope that this moment can remind us that when any of us flourish, we all have the opportunity to flourish. When any of us is harmed, we all will be harmed.
Yeah.
Like that is that is a theological belief for me, but it also is a political socioeconomic reality.
Yeah, and I just to add and kind of close out that point, we may not be able to do it before the show drops tomorrow because we wanted to. I think we may have said this either in pregame or as we first started the show. We wanted to record this show as close to live as possible when
Mm-hmm.
drop because things are changing in 30-minute increments with the global conflicts, especially those in the Middle East right now. So,
Yeah.
like NPR style, things may have changed by the time you hear this.
Mm-hmm.
But I will be, even if it's a week from now, we're going to put some, I'm going to look up some UK disability charities and put them in the show notes because I was really, and I count myself not ashamed because I try not to deal in shame, but really caught flat footed. America is somewhat in energy and independent, so we might feel it less in the coming months, even if the conflict's wrapped up tomorrow. We would feel something. The UK is going to feel this for a long time.
Yeah.
Because they're in no way energy independent. They're connected in all sorts of ways to a global trading network in ways that we have the luxury of not being. So, if you have a chance to Google disability charity in the UK and can help out, even if it's for praying for a specific disability charity in Europe, where people are much more energy interconnected and dependent on one another, please do, because we're all in the disability family together, no matter where we live, and that's been really brought home to me in the last 24 hours.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Justin, I'm feeling called to wrap us up today by thinking about signs of hope or signs of joy to return where we so often do in Palsies with Palsies to remember, like, this has been a lot of doom and gloom, and it is very real and very serious, and we can hold this, that two things can be true at once, that there can be hope and joy, even as we contemplate all of these things. So I'm wondering where is a place that you're finding hope and joy right now, Justin?
I am finding hope and joy in the fact that you and I have been working closely with particularly our board president and some other board members to get us ready for conference travel season and spreading the message of the Julian Way to the wider world and the wider United States. And related to that, one of the people that we're finally gonna have the opportunity to develop a little bit of swag to take to conferences, which I'm really excited about, and we get to highlight one of our own folks in doing that. Remember our Alyssa Phillips has a business, Prince by Alyssa, that we're using to craft some of our swag. So I'm all sorts of hopeful about sharing the message of the Julian way with, people that don't often hear from us, and getting to help support a member in her newly started small business. So I'm feeling a lot of joy around that right now.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely. It's
How about you?
so much joy to be had there. I am still basking in the joy of my ordination. We talked about this a couple episodes ago now, or maybe last episode. I don't know what time is. But as of the recording of this episode, my ordination service happened this past Sunday, and it was just such a beautiful day. It was just so much wonderful music, so many wonderful words said, beautiful gifts given, and just so much joy in that room and in the online spaces that I'm part of as people joined me from afar, or some of them watched it later, and and then joy in the reception, and in an after gathering with family and friends. And I just am so deeply reminded that I have so many people in my corner. There are so many communities and individuals that love me and that are part of the work that I do. That, like, this ordination wasn't, it was some about me as a person, but it was also very much about this work, the work of the Julian Way, all of the ethos of Palsies with Palsies. This was a room and a network of people who are part of this and believe in this. And it was just really good to have folks gathered together and to remember, oh yeah, like, we are not in this alone. We are never in this alone, even when it may feel that way. There are so many other people working for a just and loving and liberated and accessible world. So
Indeed.
very, very grateful for that.
And we're all very, very proud of you. Hooray!
Thank you. Anything else you would add before we land the plane, Justin?
I'm so grateful for space to have this conversation, and the fact that we can do it in a concise way and don't have to belabor the point is also nice.
Mm-hmm.
Heavier stuff, but I just thank you again for, helping us create space.
Yeah. Thank you, Justin. And thank you, everyone who's listening. We so appreciate you being part of our communities, part of this network of people looking to build peace and justice in the world. If you have a topic that you'd like us to cover, something that you think we could have an interesting conversation about, or a guest that you think that we should talk to about their work, we would love to hear from you. You can reach out to us on our Facebook page, Palsies with Palsies on Facebook. You can also email us at pwp@thejulianway.org. And if this show has given you something, if we've said something that has helped your life or helped shape your thinking, we would so appreciate it if you would share the show with a friend, and if you could go on to your podcast platform of choice and give us a review, rate us 4 or 5 stars. That really helps people find us and helps make sure that other people can be part of these conversations as well. And if you really want to help keep the show going and all of the work that we do, you can also donate to the work of the Julian Way. You can go onto www.thejulianway.org and click on our donate button. We so appreciate all of the people who make this work possible. And you can find our episodes wherever fine podcasts can be found. Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, anywhere that podcasts can be downloaded and streamed, you will find us. And until next time, friends, go out and put some good into the world. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, Ray.
Bye.
Bye.